Good afternoon. Welcome to the Bird Room. I'm Shane from Direct Bird Products. This week, obviously, we're missing out midweek tips. Instead, because obviously we've just reached 1,000 subscribers, so thank you everyone that has subscribed. And obviously we're going to grow the channel and try and make the most of obviously this breeding season, show you guys what we do. So today what we're going to do is just talk to you a little bit about my life in birds and how I started and to where I've got now. There's obviously a lot to explain in 30 odd years of keeping birds, but I'm not going to go into too much detail on some points and just give you a general rundown, and in the future I'll give you more details on certain things. Before we're going to get started with that, what I'm going to do is just run a competition like I've explained. Reach 1,000 subscribers for me was a brilliant milestone. Obviously I only started it in January, so the channel's going great as far as I think it's going anyway, and we're receiving a lot of positive comments and encouraging signs on things to go on. So what we're going to do with the competition, we're going to give away a £50 voucher to whoever's picked out, generally at random. And obviously we do have quite a lot of subscribers overseas, so I think it's only fair to involve them. So what I would suggest, maybe something along the lines of a voucher to the expense of £50, whether it be in euros or whatever country domination it is. I think that's the best option. Or if you're picked out, we can offer whatever you would like up to the value of £50. All you have to do to enter this competition, in the comments on this video below, just comment how many pairs of fives am I running this year. It can't be simpler. For regular viewers, you do know or should know by now how many pairs of fives we are running. I've said it on many occasions. If not, just check a look back at the previous videos. 2 or 3 episodes I've mentioned how many pairs of fives we are running. And like I said, it will be picked at random. We'll probably leave it to pick a winner probably till end of May, beginning of June. The only reason being, we've got a lot of new stock arriving over the next few weeks and gives you more variety of things to pick from. So yeah, don't forget, comment below on how many pairs of fives we are running this year. Can't be simpler. Right, so on to my time in birds. So I started off, I grew up in Rotherham, South Yorkshire. One of 10, believe it or not. I've got 2 other brothers and 7 sisters, so it's quite a big family of us. And I would like to say that the birds kept me out of trouble quite a lot of the time, to be fair. A lot of my youth was spent in the bird shed, learning things from my dad. It actually was me who got my dad involved in birds, and I'll explain that shortly. But obviously, you know, up north, even still to this day, I would say there's not really that much to do for kids and teenagers growing up. So birds as a rule really kept me going and give me something to look forward to when I finished school and so on like that. I'm going to say I started around the age of 5, 6. Obviously I was young, I can't remember. Started off with me, I was quite obsessed with wildlife. I still am now. I love wildlife in general. And what I used to do is catch birds in the garden, dunnocks for instance. I used to love dunnocks, I still do now. Started off with the old round dustbins. We used to have the old dustbins, what the dustbin men used to carry on the shoulder and chuck in the thing anyway. So the round dustbin lids, what I used to do is put it on the ground, a sheet underneath it, and a stick with a bit of rope and bit of food at the back, pull a stick, and obviously the dunnocks or whatever bird, a lot of house sparrows around back then, I used to catch them. But my dad got obviously really annoyed with me. You weren't allowed to do it. I don't condone it these days, but obviously I was only young and I wanted birds. And we knew my next door neighbour, Eric, used to breed red factors. In fact, back in them days, in the area there were so many different bird breeders, whether they be pigeon breeders or canary fanciers or whatever. there used to be so many within that area, and that goes for the bird clubs indeed, as there used to be, when I grew up, I used to belong to Maltby and Bramley Club, Brinsworth, um, Yorkshire British Bird Mule and Hybrid Club, which I'm still quite keen on showing up there now, Arworth Cage Bird Society, Gainsborough. There used to be so many that I used to be showing at as a juvenile. Mansfield, I always remember that, we won Best Juvenile. One I will come on to later, Gulf Open District CBS. That was a big milestone for me and my brother and my dad as bird breeders. I'll come on to that shortly. So anyway, because obviously I was catching birds in the garden, my dad weren't very pleased about it. For my birthday, he bought me and my brother a pair of red factors from Eric next door. Just in a general cage in the house, and within no time they was breeding, and I always remember when they came out of the nest they were never red, and I always obviously used to wonder why. Liaising with Eric next door, obviously at a young age, my dad used to just say to me, go around and see Eric and he'll point you in the right direction. And we used to obviously go and see him, me and my brother, quite regularly. There's only 2 years gap between me and my brother, so quite closely in with the birds, and yeah, up to mischief as you do. Anyway, as they came out of the nest, they weren't red, and disheartened me slightly because I wanted red birds. But obviously, knowing now what we do with Caraful Red and all the things you do to colour feed them, obviously it's a different story. But anyway, within no time, the pair of birds turned into 2 pair of birds, and obviously they were having young ones and so on and so on. And without me knowing, in the past my dad used to have pigeons, used to raise pigeons, and obviously used to have a lot of chickens and geese and stuff like that. So we were always in with the bird side of things, but not as to what we know it now. With no time at all, my dad had built a shed, and he came quite keen with the birds as well. But he liked the British finches, green finches, goldfinches, linnets. In fact, my dad had probably every kind of British bird you can imagine, from even softbills. He had a lot of softbills. But I always remember my dad spending quite a lot of money back, if you think like late 80s, early 90s, spent a lot of money on birds. And obviously with 10 of us, it weren't easy going down with my mum. She weren't best pleased at all the money we kept going on birds all the time, and obviously to feed them and keep them. So back then it was quite hard. I'm not saying it's easier now. Birds in general is expensive to keep. But anyway, his favourite bird was goldfinch, and I remember it was 1992. We paid £70 for this goldfinch cock. I never understood why a goldfinch cock back then would have been worth that. Even you're probably looking, not in the region of that these days. It's not much more than that. But if you equivalent to what it was back then, it was quite expensive. Not to mention, he did buy a cream blackbird hen that he went on to breed a hell of a lot of young ones out of that. But he paid 250 quid for it back then. It did well with it, so obviously I would say it was worth the money, but back then definitely not. So like I said, before no time, we had a massive back garden, and even a side and wrap around front garden, but all the birds were always kept in the back garden. I think there was like 15 aviaries, 2 sheds, and a massive open aviary with the chaffinches and other mixed finches in like that. I quickly became a liking to linnets and greenfinches. I used to call them green frinches back then. Obviously I was a child, so. But the reason I started liking them is because in the garden, early 90s, mid 90s, there were always, I thought back then it was a cinnamon greenfinch, but actually weren't, it was a silver. A silver greenfinch visiting our garden every day, and I always tried to catch this bird. Could never catch it, and obviously that's where my liking for greenfinches came from. And obviously it's evolved now, and I've got various greenfinches here. Kept it on because I do like greenfinches. But like I said, in no time the back garden was full of birds. Everything, corn buntings, reed buntings, starlings, blackbirds, dunnocks, all them type of birds. Norwich for muling, he did quite a lot of muling, linnet mules, siskin mules, greeny mules, golden mules, you name it, he bred them. He never went so much down the line of hybrids though. It was always kept to mainly mules and hybrids, mules sorry, and British birds and soft bills. But it was always interesting going in the shade and stuff, and I remember one day he bred this cinnamon greenfinch, and he was out at the time, and he left me and my brother in charge of cleaning the birds out. Didn't go down too well. In fact, one of the young cinnamon greenfinch got out, and he came home. First place he looked was this young greenfinch. Obviously, it must have meant something to most. It must have been something that he was looking forward to show, because obviously he went ballistic. We basically just said it had died, and one of the canaries had killed it, because it obviously had just finished weaning it in a weaning cage with other young canaries. Needless to say that the canaries that we said had killed it, he got them out, and they were no longer. Within an hour later, this bloody greenfinch came back and landed on the front edge. He went out straight away and picked this greenfinch up. It was imprinted. He went balmy. It was obviously he just killed these canaries for killing this, supposedly killing this greenfinch that he so much loved. And yeah, we weren't allowed out for a while. He weren't best pleased with us, and I always remember that. It always sticks in my head. And yeah, obviously, one thing I will remember. So anyway, that was then. We started showing at the bird shows. Back then we had to show canaries, because my dad was showing British finches and mules, hybrids, soft bills, and he was a novice at this point, so we obviously could only show canaries to have no conflict, as there is today, same thing. So we went in, showed canaries. We had 5 canaries. We did try to get border canaries, couldn't afford them. A couple of Yorkie canaries. Mainly 5 canaries. We did really well at the shows with them. So on for showing. Yeah, like I said, we belonged to quite a few local CBS clubs and did really well. We won. Back then there was quite a lot of juniors showing, so the competition was more interesting back then. It is these days. I mean, some shows do, like I've said it many a times, Ilkeston and Awas show do attract a lot of juniors in their shows. I tried to get my son involved. I did for 2 years, but backed off. He's got to that age where I did. But anyway, one show in particular that stands out for me as a junior, and for my dad as well, and I'll explain why. I always remember Goldthorpe. We went up there, me, my brother and dad staged the birds in the morning. We went out, we weren't allowed to stay in the show hall while they were doing the judging, obviously, common thing that happens still at some shows at least. So we go out, get some fish and chips and things like that. And I always remember it was raining, so we stood in this bus stop having us fish and chips, and these dirty big great rats running past us scared the crap out of me. I can't stand rats, full stop. And I said to my dad, "Oh, I don't like it here. Obviously rats around." And he said, "Yeah, don't worry about it, you know, you get them everywhere." Not for me, can't stand rats. Anyway, a few hours had passed, and we go back to the show hall. My dad walked into the show, congratulated us straight away. Bearing in mind he's a novice, and he'd just won Best in Show with Greenfinch. Can't remember if it was colour variant or not, because obviously, like I said, he liked his Lutinos especially, and the cinnamon greenfinch. Can't really remember. I know it was a current year greenfinch, I know that much. As you'll see in the picture, my dad obviously went on to show and had done really well at most shows. But not only did he do Best in Show, Best Hard Build, Best British overall, me and my brother also won Best Canary as juvenile. Now you don't see that very often, and that will always stick in my mind even now to this day. There's not many shows where a junior will take precedence or move up from, if they got a canary, British bird or whatever, go up against a novice or a champion for best overall in that section. I think it's wrong, personally. If a junior is genuinely breeding these birds, like me and my brother did back then, I think they should be eligible for moving up in the sections. But obviously, you know, some clubs don't allow it for various reasons, which that's up to them. But anyway, that was back then. Obviously, we was in all the local papers. Goldthorpe, the local paper. Remember Rotherham Record, Rotherham Advertiser did a section on me and my brother, and obviously with my dad as well. So yeah, we did quite well. Throughout the years, obviously, my dad did a lot of the bigger shows as well. It was Winsford back then, the Old British and stuff like that, and obviously the National. And I remember the National. Anyone that's shown at the National, any first place, you get these big A4 size certificates saying first place, second and third, I think they were. But we never shown there. Long weekend back then, but if anything was around like that now, I would urge everyone to go and have a visit. I mean, the National we have now, I think is slightly too early, but that's trying incorporating it with the show that's there. But that's about showing anyway. So as I'm growing up, got to the age like 13, 14 as you do, and other things come along and pique your interest as they do. So the birds sort of took a back foot with me. My dad kept them going, and yeah, before you know it, you're 18, 19 again, and a long time's passed and things change. So around the age of 18, 19, I started with birds again, got my own place up in Doncaster. We bought my old place. Age 18, bought my own place. Sound like a wealthy kid, but no, I'm not. I worked hard for it back then. So yeah, built a shed. In fact, I built two. Filled it with birds, mules and hybrids, and one of the first birds personally I bred, but first mules, should I mention, was a linnet mule, and that's probably why I've got a soft spot. Even still now, I love linnet mules. Big bird, big yellow bird, and I don't know why, I can't remember why I gave it to my sister. Turned out a big yellow cock bird, and if I would have shown it, then no doubt it would have done well on the show bench. Honestly, this bird was lovely. And I often think about it, what would I do now if I had that bird, or how would it fare? But believe me, it was a stunning bird. For the hardbill side, I managed to get these birds. I'm filming right in front, and they've got chicks obviously up here, so I'm not going to be too long. I acquired birds from Terry McCracken greenfinches and the great Don Footy. He had some stunning, absolutely stunning greenfinches. I remember getting this greenfinch hen off him. Again, cost me £70 for this greenfinch hen. Not much money at all. In fact, if that hen came about now, I would give double or triple that amount. That's how good this bird was. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, fantastic colour. Sean Fitzpatrick, he's seen it, and it was him who picked it up for me, and absolutely fantastic colour in this bird. Went on to breed a few from that, but nothing really serious, not like it is now. Obviously, I was working full-time, self-employed, and a lot of time, obviously, keeping up a family and things like that. So, brings me to around, I would say, the age of 26, 27, I met my wife, Hayley. She ended up pregnant and things like that. And I remember, obviously, having birds. I remember she just had Tyler, my oldest boy. He's nearly 13. And around this time, I was having quite an hard time with the birds. Not birds, but we thought I was allergic to something with the birds, or even allergic to birds. Couldn't breathe constantly, having chest infection and things like that, and or what we thought was that type of stuff. So needless to say, she used to do a lot of the work in the shed for me. The day she came out of hospital having Tyler, first thing she did when she got home, obviously I'm looking after Tyler, she straight out, fed and cleaned the birds for me, so absolute star she were. One thing that will always stick in my mind, what a good help she was. So yeah, obviously, after a certain while, I had to pack the birds in, and some of the birds that I had back then, I still haven't even got the quality back now. That's how much of a good quality set that I had. It is what it is. And that reason I had to pack up is obviously I was constantly sick. I couldn't go in the shed. But as time went on, obviously you miss the birds and stuff, and at that point I moved to London, and this would have been 2009, moved to London, and I'm having still the same problems as what it was when I had the birds. And obviously I haven't kept birds, not been around birds or dogs or cats or anything like that, so never knew what it was until I found out I was allergic to seed. I would have thought allergic to seed, after all these years breeding birds and touching stuff, that seed could cause so much problems. If I would have known it back then, I would have just done exactly what I do now. But that's that. So anyway, I went down one day having my tyre changed on my work van. In the garage there was a goldfinch mule hung up singing, and I happened to say to the lad, I said, "Nice golden mule, where'd you get it from?" He said, "Oh, there's a bird sale in Sutton, Carshalton," and he told me when it was. I said, "No, I never knew that. I didn't even think anyone around here kept birds." He said, "Yeah." Anyway, I went down to visit this this bird sale, and it was the third Sunday, and there was 2 or 3 people in there. It wasn't really a sale, it was more of a meeting. I remember there was a couple of Norwich on there, and Paul Dunn, there was your Norwich. Obviously I know that now, and I nearly bought them but didn't. Also there was a pair of zebra finches. I took my boy with me. He would have only been 5 at the time, I reckon, 6 maybe, 5 or 6. So we bought him these zebra finches, and obviously that got him involved with the birds, and yeah, that's how it started again. And they started breeding. I'm not a fan of zebra finches. I hate them when they're squeaky on the floor and stuff, but I don't condone anyone that wants to breed them, because they're a brilliant bird to start off with, but just not my cup of tea. Anyway, so within no time I joined Carshalton and Warrington Bird Club, extended my knowledge across and took on what some people had said, and quickly became the club secretary, and obviously it's moved on from there. Now I belong to the one that we run in Maidstone, the South Eastern British Bird Mule and Ivory Club, with Richard and Eddie, Richard Lawson and Eddie Wells. Really well run club at the moment, going from height to height. That's going to be a really good mule and hybrid club in time to come. Obviously we missed last year, but that's a different story. So obviously time's moving on, start showing birds as a novice, doing really well. Carshalton and Warrington Bird Club, 3 years, the last 3 years, we're going to miss last year out. Not even going to mention it, obviously, as though it never counted. Carshalton and Warrington, best British 3 years in a row. Avent, Solon and Avent, I think it's a South East something or other. Best British 3 years in a row. A lot of local shows I try to involve myself in to keep the hobby going as a novice, but now I'm obviously champion with Mark. I have ventured out to the All British, and I spent a couple of days going up to Yorkshire British Bird Mule and Hybrid Club to support that. Like I said, that's one that's close to my heart. That's one my dad used to show at. Anyway, I was on the way to the All British. I drove down to Mark's in Swindon. Then we drove up to, obviously, Stoke to the All British. Showing up there, did pretty well actually in most of the novice sections. Anyway, on the way back, obviously Mark was driving, we got talking about showing, and some of the shows, well, a couple of the shows we had showed against each other, and we got the same birds. I'd bought birds off him to breed, and obviously we're technically showing against each other. Then he just asked me about partnership, and would I consider going into partnership with him, because obviously Mark wasn't too well and he wanted to carry on showing, but he couldn't manage him. And I said, definitely, you know, Mark, or anyone who knows Mark Ponting, he's one of the nicest guys out there, especially in the bird community. A lot of guys know him, and he will help anyone else he can, and he will go out his way to help anybody. And when I met him, he didn't know me from Adam, and we spent over an hour talking about greenfinches and various other birds. So anyway, go back to Mark's. I drove home. Bearing in mind, it's 2 hours from Mark's back to mine. Excuse me. So, driving home in that 2 hours is quite a long time to think about it. And at this point, I just bought a load of, obviously, these cages from a novice that had, and them cages from a novice that had just packed up. So I had quite a new setup, new stock, and I'm thinking about it, thinking, have I got room to really concentrate on the greenfinches, which we've been doing really well with, and obviously to do Mark justice, because Mark's been doing really well. In fact, I think every single show he's shown at, he's won Best Novice or Best British. Can't say if it's 100% sure, but I'm almost 99% sure every single show he's shown at, he's won Best British. And I thought, I don't want to be joining as Evans and Ponting if I can't hold my end. So I'm thinking to myself, have I got time? Have I got enough room? Anyway, by the time I got home, my mind was made up. And obviously, I said yes, definitely, I would never look back. And Evans and Ponting team was going from strength to strength. We'd done really well in the first year as champions. Bearing in mind, we didn't do the All British and a couple of the bigger ones, because that's 4 hours there, 4 hours back, and obviously the time showing, so it's a long way up for us for the one-day shows. I was hoping that we're going to do the two-day show so we could persevere and get involved with that, but that's something for the future. So anyway, as many of you will know, or was familiar with the birds in here, I have concentrated a lot on the greenfinches and obviously the fives this year, which I'll explain that shortly. But mules and hybrids are quite, how can I say this, quite a bugbear of mine, because I know for a fact I can do it if I persevere with it. And obviously I've got quite a few mules and hybrid pairs, but you don't half get disheartened when you've had full eggs from a bullfinch hybrid pair, bullfinch siskin, one in question. So many have tried it and obviously failed, and I had full eggs out of this bird, and it's so disheartening knowing would that ever happen again. But obviously in time to come I'm going to persevere with it a lot more, so there's more for you to see. So that brings us up to quite up to date to where we are now. Obviously I moved out a couple of years ago to where I am now. I built my setup that we're currently in, and one thing I didn't want to do is, when I was in my old place, I kept changing things and changing this to try and make it fit into where I would like it. But now I've got it to where I'm happy, got plenty of room to walk up and down without too much disturbing of the birds, and put birds where I want them. Same with Mark, he's got his setup, he's had his setup like that for years, and he's just had a couple more flights. So for me it's going from strength to strength. And as you all know, that I don't really keep much secrets when it comes to birds, and I do try and share a lot of that on. So yeah, currently that's where we're at. We've got the birds and stuff. But one thing I want to actually mention, obviously with my time in birds, you do meet some absolutely fantastic guys out there. I mean, when I was looking for mulling pairs and hybrids and mules, I spoke to Paul Meeks. I'd dealt with Paul Meeks before, and I'd never heard of this guy. I phoned him up and I said, I'm looking for this and that. He said, oh, you want Stacey Turner? I'm thinking, girl breeding birds? Really? Anyway, it was Stacey Turner. So thanks, Stacey. Honestly, you did really help me out, and continue to be a good friend in the bird community to both me and Mark and Paul. And yeah, obviously I've had a few jokes with my wife about that, but anyway, yeah, Stacey Turner was the one who really helped me out with the mules and hybrids. So thanks for that. And obviously Sean Fitzpatrick, over the years, he's not all steered me in the right direction with birds, but with generally with life itself. I mean, one thing, when my dad passed away, obviously, it's one thing I've not mentioned. My dad, he was only 56 when he passed away, and it's not too many years ago. And we knew he was sick for quite a while, so when he passed away, I instantly, obviously, I went up north, see my mum and stuff like that. And that was passed away on a Friday. Actually, I tell a lie. It was early hours, Saturday morning, 6:28 to be exact. Sticks in my mind because I stayed up all night and stuff like that. But anyway, so I got up there on a Saturday, and Sean Fitzpatrick had obviously heard what had happened. Quite a good friend to my dad, and he phoned me up. He said, do you want to come to to Stafford? Obviously this would have been October the 11th. I'll tell you when it was. It's when I first see Mark Slowey's crossbill, I think it was a crossbill mule, I can't remember. And I seen the white mule of Eddie and Richards, the white greeny mule. Anyway, so Sean phones me up, do you want to come up here? I'm thinking, well, I do actually, because it's something my dad would have liked to have done, would have been able to, and it kept my mind busy. And I always remember I was there, and obviously I was a bit away with the fairies, as you would be. I'm in the hall with Taffy, good friend of mine from Doncaster. I remember seeing Paul Devereux. Paul, you won't even remember me back then. And Mick Bull. And now I got talking. Obviously, I had not seen these. I'd known a lot of them, but obviously I'd moved away, and they hadn't seen me since I was a kid. And Mick Bull, bless him, said, anyone who knows Mick Bull, it knows he's got a gob like anything. He swears his every second word. I'm not going to repeat exactly what he said. We got talking. He says, oh, so who are you? And I told him, oh, yeah, I know the father, blah, blah, blah. What an absolute... Anyway, Sean went up to him. He said, his dad has just passed away, literally, yesterday. And he didn't know what to say or what to do. And I always remember that. It actually made me laugh at the time. Obviously, you know, the little bit you take away from it. But anyway, I'm not going to roll on too much about that story. But yeah, Sean, you don't know what that did for me, to get me away from the situation. And yeah, it was an hard time, but anyway, that's that. So back to here and now. So we are in the middle of breeding season, so we're hoping, me and Mark, to breed something to do really well at the shows with. Obviously, real shot at the champion side of things if we do show. I mean, the showing takes a hell of a lot out of the birds, as we all know, so we'll just see how the birds perform, and when we're allowed to show again, see what the situation is. So anyway, that's enough me blabbering on about obviously birds and stuff. So basically that's it in a nutshell. There's a lot of detail that I've missed out, but that's only the boring rubbish that you don't want to hear. So yeah, so basically that's that. Right, so for Friday's episode, what can I say? I have seen a lot of posts on Facebook of people having exactly the same problems what I've had, with dead in shell and birds dying, and I think it goes without saying that that's bird keeping for you. There's always going to be the negative with the positive. You'll get a bird hatching one day, but a bird dying the next. That's birds, and unfortunately, it's going to happen. And it always tends to be your better birds. As we speak, the bullfinch hen is being fed by the lovely cockbird, or can I say that, male. Everything else is going well. I'll explain about that on Friday. Some lovely footage of one of my hybrid pairs. I'm not going to mention which. Tune in Friday to see. But the hen bird squatting for the cockbird to be mated. Caught it on my mobile, so it's not brilliant footage, but it's better than nothing. We've got greenfinch chicks, we've got other chicks. We're tuning Friday for that. But before I do go, I want to say an absolute fantastic that everybody who has subscribed to Matt L's channel, 10,000 subscribers, that is obviously a milestone for anyone. I mean, we try and make these videos as interesting as possible, but 10,000, I'm sure he's over the moon with that. So that's Matt at the Canary Room. Obviously, thanks to Oliver and Matt for all your help over the last few months, telling me which path to go for. Lovely footage of these greenfinches feeding the young ones, but you'll see that. So yeah, thanks for everybody that has subscribed, and stay tuned for a lot more exciting things. A new pair of bullfinches in the shed. All that'll come on Friday. Anyway, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. But we'll be uploading every 2 weeks on a Friday now, a feature length one in the bird room. Yes, that's it for today, so thanks very much for watching. I hope you have found it interesting. I hope I haven't bored you too much. But yes, that's it. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and thanks for watching.